Hi, Kia listeners. Let's Learn Sumo. I'm Clayton. Welcome to the podcast. Don't forget, join me on X or Instagram at Let's Learn Sumo. These podcasts are streamed on your pod streamer and also on YouTube in audio version, occasionally the odd video. Hopefully we'll get a video episode up before the July tournament. We are at the end of the Natsu Basho, the summer basho coming from Tokyo. It is 2 weeks of sumo just finished at the sumo stadium, the Kokugikan in Ryogoku, Tokyo. Welcome to my guests, Goose and Ron from Sunday Morning Sumo Show, where they do 15 days of live commentary of the sumo each tournament. Ron joins from the couch like myself on occasion. JJ's not with us. He is in Canada in a terrible time zone. How are we, lads? Ron?
Doing good. Yeah.
And Goose?
Tired, but okay.
It's a big tournament to get through. Apart from Onosato winning, what do you think of the tournament otherwise?
A lot of ups and downs. A lot of people getting wins that we should. Ao Nishiki, aside from the Yusho, is the absolute highlight to me. Oh, Shishi, but for the other reason as well, is a highlight for me as well. So
the problem with Shishi is he probably hasn't got enough losses to force him back to Juryo, but he will be floating at the bottom of the Bansuke. Ron, what did you think of the tournament? Did you have any favourite moments from that tournament?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my most favorite one was watching Ura when he did the, and I'm going to mangle this all the way, the Tustazori
the underarm
Takayasu.
Yes, the underarm forward body drop. I wish he'd stop doing it because I can't pronounce that word. It's Tsu, which is TSU, Tsu, Teizori. Underarm forward body drop. Great move. He did it. He did it against Takayasu in January, and he couldn't make it work against Wakamoto Haru last year, but this is the second time he's done it.
Yeah, and the thing is Takayasu is not a small guy. I mean, doing it against Midori Fuji, that's one thing. Doing it against a guy that big, I mean, his back has to be in incredible shape.
But when you see Ura getting Noddaward, and he bends like this rubber, what was that thing? Oh, Stretch Armstrong. Do you remember? Anyone remember that?
Yes. Yes.
Nishiki, what a revelation he's been. I did see a thing from Kissen Osato today, Goose, that said he's not very confident that Wakataka Kage or Daisho or Kirishima can make it to Ozeki, but he chose Nishiki as the next Ozeki in the hunt. 2 tournaments with double figures. He's quite impressive, isn't he, Goose?
I'm not surprised Nishinoseki would say that the 2 people that have decent records over his Yokozuna would not make Ozeki, and he would downplay the rest of the talent.
I think he is going to be in a much tougher situation going up against the entire Sanyaku this next Basho. They kind of took it easy on him this Basho. Hakuoho got, I think, 2 more Sanyaku than Anishiki did. And not taking anything away from Anishiki. I mean, fantastic talent. I mean, he will be an Ozeki. He's got the wrestling skill. He's got the physical presence. He's got humongous upper body strength. But I want to see how he does, next Basho when, he's got to roll through, those 7 or 8 guys on the first week that just chew people up.
So for a bit of context, Nishiki at Magashura 9 East finished 11-4. He faced 3 of the Sanyaku. I think he faced Wakataka Kage, lost Karasukashi, faced Kotozakura, lost in that big Kotanage move where they both went down almost face first together. Kotozakura just delayed his fall slightly before Nishiki, and Daisho did a classic Daisho thrashing on him. A little bit of maturity to come for him in the top division. Goose, Kisuno Sato did say that he thought Nishiki had a bit of an awkward position in the way he moves his arms, a little bit lower in the arms and his head position as he moves forward. And that made it awkward for the others to get to.
Ao Nishiki has the advantage of coming from a completely different background where everyone else is just sumo and only sumo. For the most part, there are judoka in there.
Yep.
There's footage of him in his Greco-Roman wrestling days. And the thing I noticed most interestingly is that he actually carries the exact same stance, that low but strong arms all the way out, trying to keep him off sort of positioning. So these guys who only do sumo and only verse other sumotori now have to basically verse this new kid from a new school that's doing things that they haven't really seen before. And I think in the early days, that's really disrupting people. And he's also incredibly talented on top of that. So the skill and the alienness of it is really doing people's heads in right now.
And speaking of Greco-Roman, do you know who he hasn't faced yet? Is Ura. In 2 tournaments, he's yet to face Ura, who also has a Greco-Roman background. I'm kind of disappointed they didn't put the two together.
That'll be a fun one.
Yeah,
Ura
that would be a
right-
match I would want to see.
Ura and his bendy style. I did see that video during the tournament you put up of Anishki wrestling, and geez, fast, isn't he? He's super fast.
So quick.
Yeah, and that's why I'd like to see him versus Ura, because both of them, there's a potential they're going to shoot for the leg and might get it.
On to our winner, Onosato, 14-1. I did call a Zensho Yusho, but the Yokozuna existing put paid to that. It was the win on day 15 by Hoshoryu over Onosato really gives Hoshoryu just that little bit of confidence now that he's, I think, 6-1 over Onosato?
Yes,
Yeah,
6-1.
Yeah, that's correct.
And so Kisanosato did say, Onosato said it's a wall that he has to get over with Hoshoryu. So I see a fantastic rivalry coming in the pair and the way they're going to fight over the next, hopefully, a couple of years.
It's such a fascinating dynamic because Onosato has more Yushos than Hoshoryu. Onosato has more wins in a year than Hoshoryu. But Onosato is not better than Hoshoryu because 6-1 with 2-3 in a rows where you can actually run away with the head-to-head there that's domination in that head-to-head. That's not even in the slightest.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I look at is, and I heard the same, statement that Onosato said, yes, I do admit that right now Hoshoryu is the better wrestler. But I look at a couple things. I think Onosato needs to work on 2 things. The first is he's got to look at getting lower coming out of the tachiai and staying lower in his bouts. I know he likes that big push, but he stands upright and he makes himself very vulnerable. We saw that with some of the Nodawas, although he did a good job of not going backwards. Those are big hits to take. The second is he's got to get a lot better at belt wrestling and how to defend against someone coming for his belt, because he lets people get inside on him. He does not use those long arms like Kinbozan does to keep people away. So, I think that's going to be something that Kisanosato is going to work with him over the next 6 to 8 weeks before the next Basho. I think he'll get there with Hoshoryu where they'll be on an even level, but it's going to take at least 2, maybe 3 Bashos, I think, before he gets to that point.
I think against Hiradumi, he did a really good Oshidashi drive and got himself a lot lower than I've seen him do before, but everyone else he was obviously a lot higher on. But that letting people get on the belt, that's what cost him the match against Hoshoryu, as Hoshoryu got that one-handed belt, stuck his hip in and just pulled him around. I mean, it just shows to me Hoshoryu's strength, and perhaps Onosato's not weak by any means, but I just think that Hoshoryu is by far and away one of the strongest on the dohyo at the moment.
And he's a better wrestler. He knows how to make the wrestling moves to use the leverage to take the bigger body down. Yeah. So
he's approved as by the Yokozuna Council this morning, or yesterday, sorry, and it goes to the full board tomorrow, I believe, to rubber stamp. Our, 74th, 75th Yokozuna, our first Japanese Yokozuna in 8 years, I believe, since Kisen Osato, his Oyakata. He also is the fastest since the modern system, and almost even the 1908. I think I saw a figure today. He's also broken the college curse. Apparently, it's been a while since the college entries, because he came in Makushita, at the bottom of Makushita on the college Yokozuna pathway.
It's true. Hokuto Fuji was a college Yokozuna that was soaring up the ranks, picking up Kimboshis, but then just never really made it past Sekiwake.
It is. I take Hakuoho's. He talked about at the end of his match, he lost to Hoshoryu, and Hakuoho, you could see he was really nervous, and I think we spoke about this on the live stream the other night. Hakuoho said that he was so surprised at the level of intensity in that last day match, the level of crowd noise, and how much pressure the Yokozunas are under and the Sanyaku are under in those last few matches. Do you think Onosato, he's past that now? He's obviously doesn't get as nervous as he looked in those last few tournaments. Now he looks a lot more settled.
I don't think so, actually. He was breathing real heavy and sweating a fair bit going up against Hoshoryu. Even though he'd already U-showed, like, the nerves were still definitely there. He's a lot better than he used to be, but he still betrays himself with the nerves.
Yeah, and I think especially with Hoshoryu, he's got to get over the mental block of, okay, this guy's been dominating me. I think he definitely is very confident against Kotozakura. He's beaten him enough, and he knows that Kotozakura is injured. But it's tough when you have a guy who's kryptonite for you, which basically Hoshoryu has been up to this point. Because you keep thinking, like, is it me?
Is it something I'm doing? Is it my technique?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. I think the last time he beat Hoshoryu was back in September last year, Oshidashi, to win the Yusho, a big double nodowa at the Tachiai. And it's an interesting point. Hoshoryu fell to Abi this tournament with that big, like, I just can't be more critical of the Yokozuna in the way he fell to Abi this tournament with that big double nodowa, then pull down. Maybe that is the way to get in there. Hoshoryu did cop another one from, I think it was from Gonayama, tried the big nodowa, but he did resist that one.
Yeah, but you think about Abi's arm length versus Gonayama's arm length. I mean, there's probably 6 to 8 inches differential. And I think that is a good point that you've hit on there, is that because Hoshoryu is such a great belt wrestler and wants to get in tight and get on that belt and then, use his wrestling skill to get leverage, especially that hip throw, the way to keep him off balance, keep hitting him in the throat. Don't let him get in close to you. And then when he wants to make a charge forward to get to the belt, look for the slap down opportunity.
Yeah. No, Hoshoryu on your belt is a death sentence for most Rikishi, and Abi knows this. Abi's got some of the longest arms in the game and is an Oshi specialist. It's taken him to Sekiwake. The thing to think about, though, I would be a little bit... I'm not as harsh on Hoshoryu for losing that, because Abi has beaten him 4 times in a row, and the head-to-head is 11-8. It's pretty even. And Abi does get back into the Sanyaku quite consistently. I think that's just a matchup Hoshoryu's always going to struggle with.
But, I mean, my criticism of Hoshoryu in that match, he knows that that's Abi's go-to move. He knows it's a double nodowa pull down if you can do it. I just thought that his tactics there, he just didn't have a defense to it, whether he thought he was going to get something different, but I just thought it was really strange in the way that it was so easy for Abi to pull that off.
Yeah, but I'll go with Mike Tyson's quote. Everybody has a plan until you hit him in the face.
I was there if you weren't, Ron.
On Onosato and his tactics, I think similar to Aonishiki, their torso is a lot more still and over their feet as they move forward. And it seems to me that Onosato has improved that from previous. Certainly, as Goose recognised the other day, he's a lot more going forward and what have you. But to me, it was a lot more stillness in the torso as he's on the move.
Yeah, he's keeping that balance. He's keeping his weight over the top of his feet. He's not leaning forward, because if you look back a couple bashos ago, he lost several fights just because he got so far forward. Someone was able to do a quick grab and slap down on him, or grab an arm and pull, which should never happen to a guy his size. And I think that's one of the things I've seen is that over the last two bashos, he's really matured in his style of sumo, and that not going backwards. Again, only his second year. He's just finishing up his second year of professional sumo. Still a lot of learning opportunity for him to keep improving. Yeah.
And that belt work is obviously going to be key for him. And as you said, Goose, Hoshoryu is death once he gets on the belt, which is why Kirishima kept Hoshoryu off the belt at every chance he got in that match. Kirishima gets a win over the Yokozuna on day 12. Watanabe, he tried everything to keep Hoshoryu off his belt and set him up for the throw.
Kirishima is another one of those guys who's just always going to be a problem for Hoshoryu, because despite the skill gap that you can say that is there, those guys have been versing since childhood. They've been fighting each other their whole life as they climb up through the ranks of sumo as well. When you get that familiar with someone, it kind of leaves the sport itself, and you are actually just fighting them. You're not doing sumo against them, and there's like layers upon layers in the matchup, things you remember from a long time ago that they're weak to, or that that they can't do well. It's like a level of familiarity with your opponent like that, that's always going to be a problem for both of them, and always going to be one of the highlight matches of the Basho when they go at it.
I think that was one of the highlights to me is Kirishima and Hoshoryu. They're both excellent technicians. They're both extremely good on the belt and what they do, and they've obviously got a great rivalry. I'd just love to see Kirishima make it to Yokozuna. I think that would be quite the rivalry for a very long time. It just
honestly give it time. Honestly, give it time, because we all thought Kirishima fell off and became a failure, but he only went down from Ozeki to M1. Other people have fallen a lot further than that, and he's back to Sekiwake. Like he's got an Ozeki run going with this 11 right now.
And his fall from Ozeki was due to injury. It wasn't due to bad sumo. In fact,
that and being yeeted about 15 feet out of the dojo by Terunofuji.
Yeah. And in fact, looking at the potential Ozeki runs, I know you asked the question, is Daisho on an Ozeki run? No. He's got to go 14-1 next Basho. That isn't going to happen. Too many guys he's got to go through. And I also don't believe he'll ever make Ozeki. I looked at his record since he made Komusubi the first time 5.5 years ago, and he's averaged 9 wins per Basho. He's had 8 losing Bashos and 5 demotions to Maegashira during that time. I mean, he is the consummate Sekiwake, deserves a lot of recognition for that, but I don't ever see him getting there to the Ozeki level. He's just not consistent enough to make that 33 wins happen over 3 Bashos.
Is he too one-dimensional to ever make Ozeki? I think that's the issue.
There is a lot of risk in the Oshi style, because if you don't have a belt grip and someone tries to throw you, it's a lot more likely that you'll go down, because you can't anchor yourself onto anything. Well, you saw it. That's true. You saw it in the Kirishima playoff against Daisho, where he beat him by pushing him to the side twice in a row, basically. You see it a lot with Hokuto Fuji. That was the main way he lost, by falling forward when someone got out of the way. The Oshi style is very effective and very aggressive, with one glaring weakness.
Yeah.
And you look at it. You look at his losses there. They are, there's a fair few Hataki Komis and Hiki Itoshis in that loss record for him, and a few Oshidashis. Wakataka Kage, I think, seems to be able to get inside and deal with him and blunt his Tsukudashi a fair bit.
Yeah. In fact, I think Wakataka Kage has the best chance of all of them that he could make Ozeki next Basho. He went 12-3 this Basho, and that's all he's got to do next Basho.
I don't
He
know
has-
that they're going. I don't think they'll count his 9 and 6 at Megashira 1 in March. I'm
Yeah.
less confident that will happen. I think you'll find they won't necessarily.
thought
Under
there was
very-
precedent set.
Under
That's-
very rare circumstances, do they promote someone from an M1? The only one I can think of, I forget his name, but he went 14-1 at M1, which was a Yusho as well, and
Yep.
he was also an Ozeki beforehand. So
Yeah,
it's very rare, but there is precedent.
Yeah, there is precedent. So I think, but even then, I think he still has a chance because he's going to be Sekiwake. Sumo Spiffy had a good comment about why he felt pretty sure that Wakataka Kage would be put up into the Sekiwake ranks because mathematically he does have a chance to make Ozeki, and he does meet the rule requirements that you have to have the 33-3, and you have to be in the Sanyaku. And he had a 12-3 here at Komosubi. Kirishima, I also think, is starting his run with 11 wins. I could see, he could go 11-4, 11-4, 11-4, or pop a 12-3 in there. He is consistent against Hoshoryu. I mean, he's the one guy that has shown he is capable of beating him on a semi-regular basis.
Yep.
And he's also had, wins against Wakataka Kage and Kodazakura and Daisho. So, against the guys at the top, he shows he's very capable. And he's been, like we were just talking about, he was an Ozeki. I mean, it was injury that brought him down. And to only go to M1 and then immediately be back up into the Sanyaku says, okay, he's got the drive. And then there's also the part two that, in addition to the injury, he had the change in Hayes.
Yes.
And, with new coaching and trying to put together a training regimen, that had to affect him to a certain extent. So
I think that was a big key in a lot of his problems late last year, early this year, is that change of Heya, the lack of quality wrestlers at his stable, new Oyakata, trying to get used to training methods, trying new things with different people. But obviously in between times, a Jungyo regional tour, he's gotten around to other stables and got a good basis of training against other quality wrestlers.
Yeah. And then as far as for the Komosubis, Oshama looks like he's definitely going to get one of the slots. But then the other point is that Onishiki mathematically beats out Hakuho for the other slot.
It's true.
And did beat Hakuho in this current Basho. That would be amazing. If on, let's see, okay,
you've got Oshoma on 10 and 5. You've got Hakuho Oho on 8 and 7 at Megashira 7. Then you've got Onakatsu and Kimbozan both at Megashira 8 with 10 and 5 themselves. They'd have to go in front of Ayanishiki, I would thought, at 11 and 4, one rank further down.
Yeah, but it's just a question of when you look at, where were they? What did they do? Yeah, it's going to be tight. Who's guessing? The other thing that always comes down to too is, okay, yeah, they've already had a decision meeting, and all right,
who's
what
had
deals
more beers
were cut?
in that meeting?
Yeah, well, yeah, who's had more beers and what deals were cut?
Yes. Look, it's going to be a very interesting Buns, Kay. We'll get to that shortly. Let's quickly hit on Kodazakura, another, I wouldn't say poor tournament, but certainly not a good tournament for him. He's got himself an 8 and 7. He squeaked it out. Last 3 days of losses to Onosato, Hoshoryu, Daisho, certainly not at peak form. Did get a win over Ayanishiki, so, well done there, but did lose to pretty much the rest of the Sanyaku. Knee issues, possibly. He's certainly not wrestling at full speed.
No, he's not. You can see it. You saw it in the match he had against Onosato. As soon as Onosato got him on the back foot, he literally lifted that left leg up to avoid putting any pressure on it.
So, Ron, you're a bit of a knee expert. If he, say it's an arthroscopic knee thing, how long would it take him to have that arthroscopically sewn back together if it's a meniscus or something, and how long would it take him to get back to full power in terms of being able to really put good pressure on that?
If it's arthro, within a week, he could be back starting light practices. And I would say by the time the Basho came around, he should be back to full strength.
And if it was something more than that?
If it's something more, if it's ligament, then he's going to be out anywhere from 4 to 6 months. But this is the thing, the big question is when will he and his coaches say, okay, we have to do the surgery? If he does the surgery, now, if it's more than arthroscopic, he's still Ozeki. He can still take, 2 losses at the Ozeki level before he's demoted to Sekiwake. Then he can take another set of losses there of the 15, and that still leaves him in the Makauchi somewhere around the 14, 15 level. And he comes back, and he will murder guys at that level.
I mean,
and I think,
if he can get back and say drops out in July, goes Kataban for September, and even misses November and drops to Sekiwake needing 10 to get back in January to Ozeki, that gives him a good 6, 7, 8 months to get back to full power.
Yeah.
Goose,
and
you reckon
can do
it's ego? Goose, you reckon it's ego keeping him back?
Not ego, but pride.
I
know it because he's the grandson of a Yokozuna and the son of a Sekiwake. I know it means a lot for him to be up here and stay here. The thing is, though, I reckon that Kodazakura not being injured stops Onosato from being Yokozuna right now.
Yes.
Because Onosato usually has struggled with putting 2 good ones together, 12-3, 9-6, 13-2, 9-6. And granted, he is looking a lot better than he did last year, so maybe this isn't entirely true, but he did get a 12-3 Yusho, which, as we used to say, is not a real Yusho, and so did his coach. But of note, Hoshoryu wasn't there. That's a basically definite loss, which puts it on an 11-4. Definitely not a Yusho, and Kodazakura could have beaten him there, which puts it, I would say 50-50 odds, would push it at 10-5. So he has a potential 10-5 if the other 2 Ozeki or the one Yokozuna show up at full potential, and the next time he comes through, Kodazakura is still hurt. That's a win. An unhurt Kodazakura could, not definitely, puts it at a 13-2, still a Yusho, and he lost to Hoshoryu anyway when he did come back. So I would say Onosato owes Kodazakura at least a beer.
But you still have to take your chances as they come in the situation. Sport is like that. Sometimes your competitor gets black flagged. Sometimes they get a drive-through penalty. Sometimes they do a knee in sumo.
No, absolutely. Not trying to take anything away from it or downplaying it. You showed twice as Ozeki deserved. It's not up to you, the condition of the 15 guys that you face that Basho. But I am saying we could see a different world.
The other reason why I think Kazak should do it now instead of later is that he takes a risk on doing some much more serious damage to that knee now that it's already weakened.
And he can end up like a Takakage out for, upwards of 12 months.
Yeah, and then you're back down into Makashita, and it's a long road to come back up. I mean, you're going to need 4 or 5 Bashos even if you win, you're going to need 4 or 5 Bashos to get back up into a chance to shoot for the Sanyaku. Yeah.
Our last Sanyaku guy, Takayasu, he had a 6-9, not a good tournament. Really got through the first week with only 2 wins, Goniyama Oho. He lost that just unbelievable match to Ura Tsuzezori. Geez, I wish Ura would find a new technique. I can't pronounce that. I'd prefer Karasakashi, thanks. Look, it's an amazing move. But Takayasu, possibly an injury, possibly back. He certainly wasn't operating at full strength, but he did punch out a few wins towards the end of the tournament. Takeda Fuji, Ichi Yamamoto, and Chiyoshima got himself to 5 wins, which is better than nothing. He'll drop out of Megashira. Other people who punched out our top Megashira 1 through to Megashira 5 without exception all got Makikoshi, Wakamoto Haru, Oho, Abi, Goniyama, Tamawashi, Hiradumi, Takeda Fuji really didn't get anywhere this tournament. Ichi Yamamoto, a little bit unlucky. Ura obviously fights hard, sometimes just unlucky. Chiyoshima 4 and 11. So no one really doing well at that level. I thought Wakamoto Haru, I think he changed. He had a bad first week, only got one win through to day 6. And then got himself to 7 and 8. Somehow had a pretty good second week. Some of his defence was not really up to scratch this tournament.
7 and 8 at M1 isn't bad to me, though.
No, that's pretty good.
That's only one win away from the Sanyaku. So
yes,
I wouldn't say that's a performance that we should be worried about. Wakamoto, if you look how deadly the Sanyaku is these days, I would say a 7-8 at M1 is expected for Wakamoto Haru and capable of better.
Yeah, and if you look at it and you say, okay, Oshoma and then Aonishiki or Kimbozan or maybe one of the other guys gets promoted up to Komusubi, you really have a potential that Wakamoto Haru and Oho, even though they go 7 and 8, may stay at M1. Just because so many guys below did so, just lost. To have a 5 or 6 level gap. Let's see, what was it? You had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 guys, including Takayasu on the east side, all had losing records from Takayasu down through Ura. And then on the west side, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys going from Oho all the way down to Churanaumi. All had losing records. There's a remote possibility they could look at it in the committee while they're having beers and arguing and just saying, you know what, nobody else did any good to make a case to put someone over them at this point. So let's just leave them where they are.
Speaking of our man Oshoma, I had that as one of my moments of the tournament. Oshoma versus Arby, day 15, big double nottawa from Arby. Oshoma gets under Arby's arms. Oshoma tried to pulled him to the bails. Arby panicked a bit, escaped, drove Oshoma back to the bails, and Oshoma is back on the Tawara extension. They call it the Kokudawara. That's the little extra piece on the dohyo. He's up on one leg, and I'm just not sure how he survived that, Goose. The weight of Arby versus the power of Oshoma to stay up there and move to the side.
As someone who's actually basically been in that exact position when I was trying to push Matt Lan out of the ring at Rollertown in 2024, it's very surprising to be on the offensive end of that as well.
It was quite the escape to shift sideways and roll Arby around. I think Arby almost spun himself around there and just left himself in a position to be okuridashi. It was quite the move. I had that one as one of my favourite moves, and showed Oshoma is certainly there for. And look, he will obviously be in Komusubi come July. How do we think he's going to go there?
I think he's going to have a rough time.
That's going to be a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Well, he did lose to Wakataka Kage and Kirishima. Got a win over Wakamoto Haru. Got a win over Arby. Got a win over Meisei, Shodai, Kimbozan. Those guys are generally up around the top of the Bansuke, but the rest all middle and lower order guys. Into the meat grinder he goes.
Yeah, he's going to come out of that first week. If he gets Aonishiki or whoever is in Komusubi 1 West, he might get a win. I don't see him beating the other 7 guys or other 6 guys. So I could see him coming out of the first week as 6-1, maybe. I mean 1-6, or maybe even 0-7. It's just going to be brutal, but that's the life of a Komusubi. An M1, M2 Komusubi, guys, you're just going to get chewed up.
That joy position is not easy by any means. It does sort him out. Hakuoho had a really good first week, got himself to 8-1 on day 9, and then he came up against the Sanyaku and pretty much lost every match from day 10 onwards to Daisho, Hoshoryu, Onosato, Aonishiki showing his form, and Kirishima. And then that last one on day 15 against Toki Hayate, where he looked like he gave up. It just occurred to me that last one, Goose. where he looked to the side. I think they had a few issues in the crowd this week with people calling out Hakioi at the wrong moment. And I think it might have been balking him.
I would have to check the tapes on that. There were some very awkward tachiais that I remember now, so I'm willing to believe it.
Yeah, it just, like, without being defamatory to Hakuoho, it was a really strange move. I didn't want to lead him to, saying he did it on purpose. It just looked, as he looked to the side, I think it might have been, I was looking around for any quotes from him on that last day's match. I couldn't quite find them. But otherwise, not quite cooked enough to get himself up into the joy there and give the Sanyaku a run. Ron, Hakuoho?
I think he's going to be in the joy, possibly, in that M4 position. Yeah, he had such a strong start, and I thought, okay, this is a guy that's going to go double digits. And like you say, it just faded off. I also thought that day 15 was weird, too. I mean, when he looked over the side, I was almost like, okay, who was giving him the high sign, like, let Tokiayate win so that, he gets a Kachikoshi out of this.
A couple of disappointments for me this tournament, and Hakuoho, we probably all expected more of him in the Sanyaku. Takeru Fuji, 6 and 9. As you said, Goose, I think you said he's trying around different techniques. I think maybe, he's been there a little bit now, and some of the upper guys are really starting to figure him out.
I saw him actively grabbing the belt in situations where he didn't need to. He could have very easily gone for his cannonball Oshi style again. I think he's trying to develop into a more well-rounded wrestler, into a way where he does be that Oshi specialist who has like elite high-level wrestling in his back pocket.
And the charging style, I think he tried it a few times. It didn't quite work. All of the Sanyaku certainly dealt with him quite easily this tournament. I don't think he got a win against any of the Sanyaku this time. Including the Yokozuna, who he tried to henker, which seems to be the thing these days.
Yeah, and trying to put a henka on Hoshoryu and not making it come off is going to be a bad day.
The thing is, though, I see henka have about 50% success rate this Basho. It's not a guarantee.
Yeah. The other thing I see with Takeda Fuji is, as a new guy coming out, first time, he's in the Makauchi, he gets a Yusho. Okay, he surprises everyone. But there's a saying, like in baseball, it's like, you typically see rookie pitchers and rookie hitters have a good first year, and then they get the book on him. This dates back to when, you actually use paper and pencil to track statistics and everything. And by getting the book on somebody, it means, okay, now they've got enough data on them. They know what tendencies are. They know, what moves they like to make. And I think
every sport has that, don't they?
Yeah.
Certainly,
and I think
certainly cricket does as well. Cricket, you find a lot of guys come out that first 6 months or 12 months and really dominate and, come out and score runs or take wickets everywhere. And then everyone gets a little bit of video and goes, okay, I see what's happening there.
Yeah. And I think, all of the coaches, they've seen enough now. They know how to defend against them, and they're teaching their guys how to do that. So I say, okay, if Takeda Fuji, his coaches, and he's got great coaches. I mean, he's at Isagahama, if they're saying, okay, you're going to have to broaden it out. You're going to have enough flexibility in the moves that you make that no one can say, okay, I know there's a definitive defense against Takeda Fuji, that they're going to have to try and be adaptable. And if you can keep him, off a consistent, defensive position, then you improve your chances of winning.
So, boys, the Bunskei up the top we're pretty happy with. Down the bottom, we're likely to lose. Well, we're certainly going to lose Tochi Taikei at 4 and 11 at Magashira 18. Tamashoho, he gets to go back to Juryo again on the old Juryo barge, 4 and 11. Magashira 16, KO 7 and 8. Might save himself depending on who's coming up.
Please let me keep KO. Please.
He was so impressive.
Yeah, no, I strongly think KO is going to stay up. The other one who's going down is Rudin. 3 and 12 at Magashira 15 is a death knell.
Ryuden and Shononumi both in deep strife. Kota Shoho 6, 4, and 5 might save himself at Megashira 14. Depends who's coming up. But certainly the big yellow circle, who is ultra mobile, was super impressive on the feet. I'd really like to see him again.
I'm a big fan of the Butter Boy, and I want to see more of him.
Yeah, he surprised me with how agile he was. The other one who could possibly go down is Nishikigi, 6 and 9 at M16. Yeah, but as we've seen in the past, he's been 6-9 at M16, and they said, you just go to M17.
Yeah, I think you'll see Megashira 18, Tochi Taikai, Tamashoho at 17, yes, Nishikigi
they're gone.
Will likely go. You, depending on how many they want to lose, will depend on whether Shononumi and Ryuden go down. That would make, I think you could easily say Shononumi and Ryuden are in deep trouble and are likely to go. Kota Shoho might save himself. Shishi, unfortunately, him of the awkward bum wiggle, probably saved himself with a few wins towards the end. More's the pity.
Yeah, he does math out to M16. And when you look at the Juryo, 4 guys in Juryo definitely had enough wins that they should be promoted up. Kota Eho is on the borderline. He had a great Juryo session. He was 11 and 4. He is the guy that could possibly knock Nishikigi out.
The one thing I would like to add, I have a theory. Sadanaumi going 10-5 and getting a random special prize for the first time in 6 years, I think was an elaborate joke to stop him from going home on time.
Make him hang around. That presentation went forever.
Yeah,
there's like 50 trophies they gave out from various countries.
He won his match and then had to wait an hour and 10 minutes for the special prize to come out, and all he wanted to go was sit on his couch.
Yes, he wanted to head off to the Senshiraku party and have a sake and have a rest. So, gentlemen, that's it for the Natsu Basho. We're off to Nagoya, to the new stadium in Nagoya. I've seen pictures of it. It looks very fancy for the July Basho. Should be an awesome thing. Hoshoryu Yokozuna East versus Onosato Yokozuna West. I can't wait for that rivalry to commence at that rank. Any last words, Goose?
Sumo is so cool.
Ron?
I think it's great to see history being made, and with 2 young Yokozunas, I'm just looking forward to the next 5+ years.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to go for a long time. I see Hoshoryu and Onosato, they're both capable of it. It could be a fantastic rivalry for a number of years. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on the podcast. We'll see you again in the July Basho, Sunday Morning Sumo, with Goose and JJ as our normal commentators. JJ had a bit of an easy one this time. Ron filled in a lot. It was great listening to Ron over the 2 weeks as well.
Much appreciated.
Thanks for listening, folks. A few technical issues at the end. Lost the boys on the stream. We'll be back next time. Join Goose and JJ on the Sunday Morning Sumo Show. Ron, myself, and a few others will join, and should be a great tournament in July. Hakioi, let's learn sumo.